I don't know why they're trying to say they don't need or they deny the medical support. Emotional distress is the biggest attack to our energetic balance. This meditation is the best way to combat any attention issues or distractions.
Today we're speaking with Dr. Yang Jingduan, CEO of Northern Medical Center. We talk about the medical care Shen Yun dancers need and get, and the role of meditation in an artist's life. I'm Leeshai Lemish, and this is Shen Yun Voices. Dr. Yang, thank you very much for coming today.
Thank you for having me, Leeshai.
Absolutely. I wanted to talk to you. I want to get right to it. You were in Philadelphia for many years before you moved to Middletown, right? How long were you there for?
I was there since 1999, and when I went to the residency at Thomas Jefferson University Hospital.
I know you've treated some Shen Yun performers, and in the media now we've seen some claims that Shen Yun performers are denied medical care. What was your reaction when you saw that?
I thought it was ridiculous. Anybody who get injured or are in pain will get immediate treatments because that's the only way they can heal, can recover, and return to the performance. And I think anybody with a common sense would agree to that. So I thought this kind of claims are really a false, and to say the least. And I don't know why they're didn't trying to interview people like myself.
Yeah. Well, what are the range of injuries that you and your colleagues have seen from Shen Yun performers who come to you?
One of my colleagues told me that he regularly seeing 2 or 3 performers every month, every year, roughly see about 30 performers. Clearly, totally opposite to what the Times claims. And actually, one of the reasons the Northern Medical Center was set up is to support the communities, including students of Feitian College and the performers of Shen Yun. So that's really the purpose. So I don't know why they're trying to say they don't need or they deny the medical support.
So why do you think somebody would say that?
This tactic is familiar to me because in 1999, and when the Chinese Communist regime started persecuting Falun Gong practitioners, they're trying to kind of portray them as crazy. I remember very clearly there was an article say there was 1,400 people who practiced Falun Gong died because they refused to take medicine or seeking medical treatments. But if people know, that sounds scary, right? 1,400 people died. Wow. But if you really think about the 100 million people who practiced Falun Gong at that time in China, according to Chinese government's own statistics, and the death rate in the general population, and 1,400 among 100 million people, count me in. Well, that's a really very low death rate. So anyway, when they're trying to portray you crazy, they're trying to make up stories like that. And it only works for people like in China because they're scared. The entire country was under a fear of being identified as the enemy of the states at that time as Falun Gong practitioner. So people are willingly to accept this information, right? But here in the United States, come on, your story, it doesn't make any common sense. If I'm running Shen Yun Performing Arts, I want my dancers to get the best medical care they need in order to complete their tours and their shows, right? And anyway, so I think this is the reason they're doing that. I don't know why, but it does feel, it does smell like 1999 in China, so to speak, when the Chinese Communist regime first trying to persecute Falun Gong, that spread all these lies, they exaggerate all these things, distort them, and then take things out of context. The goal is to generate hatred and the fear of the society. They're trying to isolate them. so they can give up what they're doing. And I think it's interesting to see that happens with, of course, New York Times, and I don't know why they're doing that, to be honest. It will really make people wonder what is Falun Dafa, what is Shen Yun, and why New York Times doing that. Because when I was in the United States, and was people asking why Chinese communist regime persecutes Falun Gong. Falun Gong sounds like a great, it's meditation, exercise, being truthful, being compassionate, being tolerant. At the beginning, you really have to struggle to answer that. But later on, it's very clear. It have nothing to do with what Falun Gong is. It has everything to do with what Chinese Communist Party is. It is evil, and therefore everything good is the enemy. That's very simple.
When Shen Yun is being criticized in such a way, how does that make you feel?
How do I say it? How do I feel? I feel pretty upset about it because it was not true. And it's not respectful to Shen Yun and to the performers and to our profession in a way. I said, New York Times, in many people's eyes, they're pretty good, have long history, and there's pretty decent media. But I would never have expected that doing the article like this.
They never called you to ask?
No.
Because they must have known that.
No.
If they talked to enough performers, they must have heard that some have gone to you.
Right. No. I never got a call, never anybody reach out to me about.
None of your colleagues either?
Yeah, no.
So you've worked with Shen Yun since 2006.
Yeah.
Have you ever encountered, in all your years, anybody from Shen Yun trying to stop medical treatment or trying to stop people from seeing you or discouraging them? Have you ever heard of anything like this?
No, not at all. Actually, very often the people in charge, normally they come to me ask for help with them. So I don't think anybody can stop them from or will stop them from seeking treatments. So again, I'm actually surprised, how, if you think about it, it's almost 800 or 1,000 performers, including musicians and dancers.
Over all these years, certainly.
All these years.
Yeah.
And there are very few injuries, and serious injuries. So again, I question the motives behind this type of articles, to be honest, because it's so one-sided, and it is so similar to what the Chinese Communist Party was trying to achieve. So I just smell the similarities, almost like CCP action in United States.
Few people have commented how similar it seems to what happened back then, 25 years ago. Have you ever exchanged notes with other professionals who help ballet performing arts companies or other dance companies and kind of compare what kind of injuries they face and what you've seen with Shen Yun?
No, I have not. And first of all, this really, until these articles, these Shen Yun performance injuries are really relatively rare and minor and not really an issue. I'm not saying there is an issue. My colleagues see about 30 performances a year, and so at least half of them or more than half of them would require some X-rays or even MRIs. Some of them will need surgeries. But other than that, it's still a right small proportion of performers. So it has never been an issue that to the point where I have to do some investigation to compare what's happening here with what's happening in other performing groups,
Have you encountered any issues of eating disorders or any problems in that regard?
I haven't encountered anybody with eating disorder. The eating disorder is not that you will pay attention to your what you eat or you trying to keep you in shape in order to perform. And that's not eating disorder. And I think as a professional dancer, it's only natural and normal for them to pay attention to that area.
Sure.
So I haven't seen anybody because of not eating, cannot perform, cannot function. Think about it. If anybody who have seen Shen Yun performing arts or Shen Yun performance, you can't have an eating disorder and perform. You have to be really healthy, happy, and beautiful to perform. I'm just surprised why these people who write about Shen Yun not to talk about what they do and what good experience they're having. It's amazing if you tell other dancers, artists, what life is like in Shen Yun, they'll probably say, I want to be there too, because they're the one who can appreciate how hard to be a dancer or to be part of the performing arts group.
Do you think it's challenging for Shen Yun performers, be they dancers or musicians, to then, if they decide this isn't the career for them and they leave, and that happens every year, some people say they want to do something else. Do you think it's challenging for them to transition to another career afterwards?
I think so, because a lot of times, as I said, people think the grass is greener on the other side, and they're young, they haven't experienced what the real world is like. And so they're thinking, they want to experience that. So I don't know whether that's the case for some of these kids who seem to be holding grudges against Shen Yun, whether they have run into challenges in real world, real life, and they may have misplaced or displaced their frustration, anger towards Shen Yun rather than the challenge coming from the real world, because not easy.
What is the kind of advice that you would give to people in terms of how to have a healthier perspective on their experiences?
So I think there's a number of things they have to think about. Number one is why they're doing what they're doing. Do they really understand, appreciate the meaning and the purpose of being there? Because being Shen Yun performing arts, being Shen Yun dancers, is challenging. It's not everybody could do this. Just like any, performing arts, it requires very hard training, a lot of sacrifice, devotions, and if you lose your meaning and the purpose of doing that, all this become even more challenging, right? So you have to really answer yourself, why am I doing this? Have I changed my heart from what I wanted to do or the reason I wanted to do it? Now the reason I have lost the reason to do it. So that's really very important. Second thing is they have to look at these relationship issues and how much issues is that individuals, how much issues is coming from yourself. And most importantly, you have to understand, or you can't change others, you can only change yourself. And that's if you can focus on, reflect on ourselves and improve ourselves, and things will be different. But of course, there are situations they have to either switch rooms or switch companies and to work with different people. But if we don't solve the problem inside us, and we carry the problem everywhere we go. So that's really the focus. Again, this is not something unique. You go to every kind of therapist, that's what they would help you to work on, because that's the only thing you have control. The only thing is possible is to improve yourselves. And I think this is a good process for them because they're young, most of them, in their 20s. They need to go through life challenges and learn in the process. I think a lot of them are still doing that.
Do you think that performers have more stress in daily life than people who are
I think
in
they have
professions?
much less stress in daily life.
Why is that?
Because number one, they don't have to cook. They don't have to shop, right? All they do is make sure they meditate, they exercise, they perform, and they get training, they go to perform.
Yeah, but you have to perform no matter what emotional state you're in that day, right? You could be having a bad day, but you still have to be all smiles when the curtain comes up.
Oh, that's true too. I mean, that's the stress, of course. I'm not saying they don't have the stress. But relatively speaking, if you are focusing what you do, and if that's the only everything you do is in your control mostly, I think it's much less than what's going on in the real life.
Yeah.
So stress is not what you're doing or what's happening. Stress is your perception of what you're doing, what is happening. And therefore, based on the perception, it generates emotional and physical reaction. And if you perceive things positively, it only generates positive response. But if you perceive it negatively, everything's negative. So stress is a subjective experience, is a subjective reaction, it's an individual experience. So therefore, if you don't want to be there, you don't want to do what you want to do, forget it, no matter how people treat you, and you're not going to be happy. And you shouldn't be there.
In your interaction with Shen Yun performers, as a psychiatrist, what do you make of the environment and the emotional states or psychological states that people are in?
Well, the most striking things for me is to see how disciplined they are and how motivated they are. And they're very focused. Of course, everybody has their own emotions and thoughts inside them. But in that moment, they're very present.
Why do you think these performers, be they dancers or musicians, are so present? Is there something about performing on stage in a group, in dance, or in an orchestra that requires you to be present? Is that why they're like that?
It's not, yes, everything requires you to be present to perform well. However, to be able to stay present is not easy. And you don't know how many stimulants I have to prescribe to help today's people to claim to stay focused. And but they're being trained because meditation is the best way to combat any attention issues or distractions. It rewires your brain to be able to focus better if you meditate every day. That's what they do. So I think they're really, not everybody was born to be able to stay focused and being present. It requires a lot of training.
Do you see a trajectory in this regard with people trying to be more present?
Absolutely. If you go to big companies, they have a meditation room now. Then before they have yoga rooms. And when I was in England, in Oxford, and there are lots of books about meditation, I was surprised to see that there. And a lot of hospitals today, they have a room for meditation. So I think meditation is going to become one of the part of the lifestyle. And also meditation is not just about sitting there and be quiet. It's also about how your mind stay focused. So to me, if you are focused on the things you're doing, you are meditating. It doesn't have to be taking the time away from your life to meditate.
Like active meditation.
Yes. Mm-hmm. So if you're focusing, stay focused on what you do, you are meditating because you are absolutely in control of what you're doing. And your mind is focused on one thing, But it's hard because now people eating dinner and watching TV or or browsing on their phones, and
Yep.
it's very hard. Too much distraction.
Too many other options.
Yes.
In the past, whatever was on TV, those were your
Yeah.
options. You've written a book, right? Facing East, was that the name of the book?
Yes,
Yeah.
I did.
You wrote a couple of books. That's your most recent book. And do you see some of the principles in common between the type of harmony you were talking about in your book and classical Chinese dance?
Yes, of course, and showing performance in general.
Do you have an example?
Yeah. If you think about it, Chinese medicine is really medicine about energy. At that energetic level, everything affects our energy, or everything that is energetic by nature will have interaction with us. For example, the color. Color is a light, just different frequencies. And therefore, it's energy. So when you look at the color of a costumes, backdrops, and that movement, that combination, and give you direct impact energetically with your body. And our organ system specifically sensitive to specific colors. And for example, the liver is sensitive to the color of the cyan or green, and the kidneys is sensitive to the color of black, and the heart is sensitive to the color of red, and the lungs are sensitive to energy of white, and spleen, stomach are sensitive to the lights of color of yellow. So therefore, constantly a beautiful, harmonious colors actually is very healing to our body's energy and balance our body's energy. Same thing with the sound. There's 5 different sounds, and the 5 different sounds corresponding with 5 different organ systems. So when you are listening to the orchestra of Shen Yun, when you watch the beautiful costumes and colorful backdrops, and you're constantly having energetic interaction and healing process. By the way, I know these dancers, they not only do trainings, every day they meditate, they do Qigong exercise or Falun Gong exercise, and they read. And what they're reading is trying to help them to be emotionally even cured, and to be focusing on what they're doing, and without attaching to their own desires and emotions. By doing that, they have the most smooth flow of energy, because emotional distress is the biggest attack to our energetic balance. So by doing all that, that's the reason they're able to perform that beautifully and smoothly and powerfully on the stage, and generates the energy that audience sitting there for 2 hours but also experience, I call it energetic shower. And so that's really powerful therapeutic. So I literally tell my patients, I'm prescribing it to you to go to see Shen Yun. It's cheaper than my acupuncture session, but it does a lot more than what I can do for you. So what it is, if you understand the Chinese medicine, if you understand how mind and body works, and if you understand the modern understanding how our thoughts, our emotions, our immune systems, our nerve systems, and our endocrinology, and whole things is all connected. It is not something we don't understand anymore. Now we do. Modern medicine is developing very fast, actually. But if we really want to respect it, appreciate it, and bring it to the mainstream medicine, we began to understand a lot more.
There was a study that showed that children who had, I think it was 10 years of classical music training, developed better empathy and emotional intelligence. Have you heard about this?
Yeah, I think there's tons of study to show how the music and the arts and the performing arts because it's all boiled down to what I talked about is all form of energy. If you think about it, the world, when you look at the positive world or negative world, it's an energetic interaction. And when two people have a conversation like this, and we're having energetic exchange, it's not just a verbal communication. So therefore, any exposure to positive energies going to help with the development of intelligence and emotions in any living beings. It's all going to affect their way of learning and their way of interacting with people. If we have the time and the resource, it's not difficult to find out. And I remember I watched a show by Dr. Dan Monti, and he utilized the PET MRI imaging for his brain. And during the time that he had 1 minute of meditation, and he played the music of the meditation that Falun Dafa meditation music.
Oh, really?
For 1 minute or something, and his brain changes. It's on the record.
Is the brain frequency changes?
No, it's the imaging.
Okay.
And it's amazing. So it's not something, of course, people didn't know what the music was from, and he told me.
Didn't recognize it, yeah.
He played the music and of meditation music of Falun Dafa. But anyway, so hopefully in the future we'll have chance to do those studies.
That would be fascinating. I'd be really interested. How many patients would you say you see every day in your clinic, in your practice?
In my clinic, when I work, I see 20 or 30 patients.
20, 30 people a day. Is that stressful?
No. For me, that's the easiest part of my life. Running the medical center, make sure everybody get paid. That's the hardest.
That's the hardest.
To keep lights on.
We appreciate you taking the time out of your really busy schedule to chat with us.
No problems. Pleasure.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.